Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. It's Friday. Let's hit it.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Open Line Friday, telephone number 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. Open Line Friday means you get to talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's not the case Monday through Thursday. Monday through Thursday have to talk about something that I care about so that I don't get bored. If I get bored, it's bad news. But on Friday, that's the risk. Throw that out. You can talk about anything, even if it does bore me. I'll either fake it or be bored. And it really is a golden opportunity for callers to take the program in different directions. It can be questions, comments. It can be complaints. I know there are a lot of complaints these days. Yes, I'm sure there are countless complaints. Have at it. You know, I am the politest host in America. And I am the most tolerant host, particularly to people that I have invited to appear on the program by asking them to call. So, again, the telephone number is 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. It's confusing as heck today. Snerdley, by the way, did you know that there was a secret confab right here in Palm Beach last night of establishment people and donors? Yes, it was huge. It's a 2-day thing. Paul Ryan was there. It was yesterday and today. It consists of many donors, like this guy Paul Singer, and the Ricketts family owns the Chicago Cubs. And it's all about what can we do to stop Trump. And what's confusing it, no, I was not I didn't even know it was happening until I read about it in Politico today. I mean, if I've got they name it a pricey French restaurant. The dinner last night took place at a pricey French restaurant. So it's got to be one of two. It's either Chez Jean-Pierre or Café Balloon. It's one. And if I'm leaving one out, I don't mean to be offensive. If there's another pricey French restaurant in town, they're all pricey, are they not? No, it was in Palm Beach. It was in Palm Beach. It's going on even now. I mean, the dinner ended last night. It's a 2-day confab. Anyway, what's confusing here? Here, let me just give you the headlines before we get into this in great detail. Ryan huddles with GOP donors. Big money givers convene in Palm Beach, weighing what to do about Trump. Well, here's the first graph. House Speaker Paul Ryan met Thursday night at a pricey French restaurant in Palm Beach with some of the party's biggest donors to assess a political landscape dominated by one vexing question: what to do about Donald Trump. And then the next headline, GOP operatives, conservative leaders meet to thwart Trump. This is a different group. This is the group that is headed up by Eric Erickson, occasional guest host here, has a new website called The Resurgent. And then there's this headline, Republican National Committee spokesman, the party will rally around Trump if he's the nominee 100%. And then there's this, contested convention looking more likely, says Speaker Ryan. Now, wait till you hear the next one, though. Ryan says, we'll make it work with Trump. What are we supposed to believe here? This story from thehill.com, contested convention looking more likely, says Speaker Ryan. It's by somebody named Scott Wong. For the first time, Paul Ryan's acknowledged the increasing likelihood the GOP nominee will be decided in Cleveland at a contested convention. Next story. With his youthful earnestness, genial personality, and devotion to conservative policy, Paul Ryan enjoyed a special stature within the GOP even before he became House Speaker. He was interviewed by John Harwood, MSNBC. He said, we'll make it work if it happens. If Trump's a nominee, we'll make it work. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to defend conservatism as I understand it. I'm going to defend our ideas as the Republican Party, but we're going to have to work with whoever the nominee is. Now, what are we plebes supposed to make of all this? I mean, two contradictory stories. Ryan, oh yeah, no question, contested convention looking more likely, and we'll make Trump. Maybe they go together. Maybe they'll do the contested convention, and if Trump wins it, we'll get behind Trump. Maybe that's what it means. On the Democrat side, I have four different stories from four totally different sources about Hillary Clinton. The New York Times, the Huffing and Puffington Post, the Daily Caller, and the New York Post. And each of them outline different reasons, four different reasons, that Hillary Clinton is probably the worst Democrat candidate in the history of all time. Now, each story taken individually, maybe not all that bad, except this is a person who traditionally gets a pass in the drive-by media. Hillary Clinton always will get a pass. And yet, here are four different stories with four different reasons why she's the worst Democrat nominee in history. As I say, taken individually, kind of a ho-hummer, but you put them together. Union members hate her and love Trump. Blacks have no enthusiasm for her. As a sidebar, I don't know what kind of credibility you want to attach to this, but in the soundbite roster today, I have Geraldo Rivera, a Grim Reaper, predicting that Trump could get 25% of the African-American vote. But on the Republican side, they think Trump would lose in a Goldwater-style landslide. But the Democrats don't. The Democrats are worried. That's what all these Hillary stories are really all about. There's another story, by the way, people upset with Elizabeth Warren who will not yet come out and endorse Hillary. And who also will not demand that Hillary reveal her transcripts of the speeches that she's making to the big banks. So while everybody's worried about what's happening on the Republican side, the Democrats are not a model of unity right now. The third Hillary story, white men are repelled by her. That's the New York Post story. And the fourth story is how she's being investigated by four different government groups relating to national security risks and violations. Four different stories, four different reasons why she's a disaster for the Democrat Party waiting to happen. Now, we have to always keep in mind that when the drive-bys are behind things like this, you never know how much of it's legit and how much of it is part of a strategery. We just never know. We know that our history with the drive-by media and the Democrats is that they love to lower expectations. They love, because Republicans are so susceptible, so open to hearing the problems involving the Clintons. Republicans are so open to a news story that says this might be the time where the Clintons finally are done in. Republicans have been waiting for that magic story for 25 years. So there's always that to factor in. But it's not these four stories as standalones. The anti-Hillary stories, the problems with Hillary, the fact that she can't draw a crowd, the fact she can't sell books, the fact that she has no connection with voters, the fact that she doesn't appear to be human, that she doesn't know how to be human, that it's not isolated. These four stories are not out of the blue. They are a continuation of an ongoing pattern that does indicate a degree of unrest on the Democrat side. And we'll get into all four stories as the program unfolds before your very eyes. I got an email today from a friend who said, you need to straighten something out. I said, what's that? Well, you talk about the establishment and the convention and all that. I think people might think you're talking about the delegates. And it's a good point. let me see if I can, I don't know if there's anything to straighten out, but let me clarify something. Because in the past couple of weeks, I have rolled up my sleeves and I have gotten pretty intense in my discussion of Trump opponents within the Republican establishment and what their motivations are. And many people have come under the incorrect assumption I'm talking about them. The delegates to the Republican National Convention, just the standard, ordinary, everyday delegates, are just like you and me, folks. They are elected, nominated, whatever. They win the honor at the state level. The delegates are not part of anything. When we talk about a contested convention and the establishment getting together and choosing whoever would be the nominee, maybe in defiance of the popular vote, in defiance of democratic principles and so forth, I'm not talking about the delegates, except as to point out that the delegates on the first ballot are committed. They're pledged to vote however the people of their state voted. After that, they can do whatever they want. But when we get into in-depth discussions here of the establishment and their motives, I'm not talking about delegates in any way, shape, manner, or form. The delegates are, in fact, the focus of attention with all the horse trading. The delegates are some people, in some cases, who can be told what to do, depending on the structure of the Republican Party from the state they representing as delegates. But it's if anybody has concluded that in my discussions here of the quote-unquote establishment and actions that may or may not be taken at the convention, that involves delegates, is people in the smoke-filled rooms, the power brokers, pulling the levers, doing what they can to deny the expressed will of the people. The delegates are not part of that discussion. As an example, in a Reuters story, meet a man who will help determine Trump's fate in the 2016 race. It's actually kind of a strange story for Reuters. Mark Strang spends his days delivering farm equipment, listening to politics on the radio during cross-country drives. But in July, the 63-year-old could have an outsized voice in choosing the Republican nominee, because for the first time in 40 years, Republicans could arrive at their national convention in Cleveland without a nominee. And if frontrunner Trump fails to lock up a nomination before then, Strang will have a chance to make history. Strang is from Illinois. He's one of 2,472 delegates to the convention who will determine the party's choice for the White House this November. In recent elections, the delegates have simply rubber-stamped the presumptive nominee. But this year, the convention could become a brutal fight in which every delegate vote will count. Trump currently has 673 delegates, short of the 1,237. Some doubt among election number crunchers that he can hit it. By the way, there's more on that today. Another best guess scenario has Trump 60 short. And then the question, well, what do we do then? Anyway, if nobody gets 1237, says Reuters, that's when Mark Strang will step into the spotlight. After filling roles in local Republican politics, Strang was selected by Illinois voters to serve as a delegate for Republican candidate Ted Cruz. So he's a Cruz delegate. He's pledged to Cruz on the first ballot, and he can stay, if there are more than one ballot, he can stay with Cruz as long as he wants. It's his vote. Now, he's also, like every other delegate, if it goes beyond the first ballot, all kinds of people are going to be coming to these delegates and making trades, using whatever tools at their disposal to persuade them to vote the way whoever's approaching them wants them to vote. But Mark Strang likes Cruz for his position on guns and immigration. But if the convention becomes a fight because no candidate gets a 1237, most of the delegates would eventually be released, meaning after that first ballot. My point is, folks, this guy is just like you or me who happens to be a delegate to the convention. And the people that are selected as delegates or win the right, it's an honor to them. It's a big, big deal. But they are not necessarily, and I don't want anybody being unnecessarily confused, they are not the quote-unquote establishment. They are not locked in. that at least as we talk about the establishment here, that is not who they are. There was also one other bit of confusion on the program yesterday. It happened in the last hour of the program. And I was in the midst of an explanation about why some in the establishment so oppose Trump. And I stated it's because they look at how Trump is winning without their services. And I was speaking of consultants and pollsters and any number of other people who are traditionally part of every candidate's team or apparatus. And the point that I've gone to great lengths here trying to explain to people who can't understand it why people are supporting Trump. And I've also gone to great pains to try to explain to you, the people in this audience, why the opponents of Trump oppose him and what are the various and possible motivations for it. Well, many people yesterday assumed I was talking about them when I was actually talking about 10 people, 10 or however many professional consultants there are. I don't like naming names here because it probably would be better if I did. I just don't like going there. But the consultants I was talking about are the people who take on candidates and promise. These are the guys that have forever have been telling Republican candidates, I'm the guy that can get you the independent vote. I'm the guy that can get you the 20% of the vote that you need to win. That has led to Republican candidates ignoring the base, taking it for granted, and going out and sounding like squish independents, like McCain or Romney. But a lot of people who are opposed to Trump in the blogosphere think I was talking about them. And I was not. I'm under the impression, falsely, that people know my definition of terms when I'm talking about consultants, pollsters, and so forth. Anyway, I'm up against it on time here. A brief timeout. We'll be back after this. Don't go away. Okay, let me see. I need you to grab a soundbite here. If I can find it very quickly. It's going to be... Sorry, I should have done this during the break, but I was doing something else. Grab number 15. Audio soundbite number 15, last night on the Fox News Channel. Special report with Brett Baer. Speaking with Dr. Grothammer about Trump's campaign. And Brett Baer says, you look at the Democrats and their reaction to Donald Trump, it appears that some of them are getting a little scared about the prospect of facing Trump. If you look at the turnout rates so far in the Republican primaries, it's exponentially higher.
He's demonstrated the ability to bring out people who aren't regular voters, aren't regular Republicans, and he could alter the map. I think Democrats who thought 6 months ago that he was a joke, I thought he was a joke as a nominee for the Republican Party, and a lot of people thought as well, and we were all wrong. So he has a capacity to appeal. Democrats are beginning to think that this is not a slam dunk, and this guy, he doesn't play by the rules. He makes them up, and under a new set of rules, she could lose to him.
So Dr. Charles Krauthammer at the Fox News Channel said last night he was wrong for laughing at Trump, that Democrats are worried, and that Trump is actually bringing a bunch of new people into the Republican Party, and the Democrats are worried. That is true. I don't care what others tell you about where the Democrats are, but it'd be silly not to be. If they're smart politically, they would have to be concerned, which they are. Quick timeout. We'll be back and continue in a minute. Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. Great to have you with us, folks, as always. We start in a beautiful place, Thousand Oaks, California. It is the summer training camp location for the Dallas Cowboys, traditionally. Here's Susan. Great to have you on the program. Hi. Oh, is that right? Susan, do not hang up. I was just told we've got a problem with the phone. We can't connect. When we know you're there, we can't transfer the phone line to the air. It's like the equivalent not being able to answer the call, not being able to pick it up and connect it. So we are working on it. So, Susan, hang on, and we'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Let's go back to the audio soundbite. This is kind of funny. You know, yesterday I had a throwaway joke. I cracked a joke. You know what's funny? Sometimes I do jokes and people think I'm actually making serious policy statements. And I guess this is one of those times. Yesterday I said, I got an idea for Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell could offer something to Barack Obama. He could offer the Supreme Court nominee to Obama in exchange for Obama allowing the DOJ to indict Hillary. They actually talked about that yesterday on The Five at Fox, as though it were a serious proposal. Eric Bolling getting it started.
Rush Limbaugh has an interesting idea on how to settle the nominee divide.
I think Mitch McConnell maybe offer a deal to Obama. I'll give you your nominee if you'll have the DOJ indict Hillary. Would Obama throw Hillary overboard to get his Supreme Court pick for life? Except this is not the guy he wants. Obama's going to put somebody, if this were something other than a sacrificial pick, if this were a legacy pick, he'd find somebody in his 50s, late 40s maybe, somebody be there forever. Okay, so look, I don't know if they took it seriously at Fox or not. It sounds like they did, but it was an obvious joke. Does anybody really expect McConnell to make the pitch? And for Obama, yeah, Mitch, you have an idea there. All I got to do is let the DOJ indict Hillary and you'll give me the nominee. That's right, Mr. President. So here's how it ended up being discussed on The Five on the Fox News channel.
Yeah, Rush is right. This is Obama gaming. So Obama's not going to take that deal, right? Indict Hillary. And
We'll give him.
Good one. That's Rush.
We'll give him it, right? Fine, Garland. Serve up Hillary.
I wouldn't even take that deal.
That was Juan Williams laughing as though Ed said he thought it was a good. Okay, we got our phones back. So here's Susan in Thousand Oaks, California. I appreciate that you waited during that little interruption. Great to have you here, Susan.
Hi, Rush.
Hi.
Listen, in my opinion, the only difference between Trump and Hillary Clinton is that Hillary has bigger hands.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
Well, listen, I'm a never Trump voter. I just cannot tolerate the idea of voting for him. I think they're both opportunists, and I don't think it really matters. People like to scream and say, "Hey, if you vote for
wait, well, hold it. You said both are opportunists. You mean Hillary and Trump are opportunists?
Oh, sure. Yeah, they're opportunists. I mean, look, Trump has changed his political affiliation 5 times. He just barely became a Republican again. I just don't think we can believe a word that he says. He does whatever he needs to further himself. And so does Hillary. They're both opportunists. So how do you trust either of them?
Okay, so given that you're passionate about this, and where do you come down on it? I mean, the numbers are what they are. The math is what it is. Trump's at 600 some odd. Ted Cruz is a couple hundred behind. Everybody is waiting to see. I heard the Trump people say on TV today that if they win Arizona next week, it's over.
Well, my hope is that Cruz will team up with Kasich and that we can get that full vote of the never Trump people.
Kasich?
What's that?
Did you say Kasich? Cruz team up with Kasich? What about Rubio?
Yeah. Well, I loved Rubio. I thought he was a class act. I thought he was a good person, but I don't think that he can bring to the table what they need. I don't think he could bring Florida to the table, but I think he could bring Ohio. I think Kasich could bring Ohio. And plus, if Trump were to team up with Kasich, I think we're in trouble because I think Kasich will team up with anybody. And if Trump teamed up with Kasich, then I think we'd be in trouble.
Okay. I know you're passionate about this, and I know you stridently oppose Trump. Tell me, and you've thought about it. I don't mean to be putting you on the spot. Look, I realize you're a caller, a host asks you to do something, and you might don't get nervous. You got plenty of time here. What do you think the best way? I know you just said go out and hook up with Kasich, but what are the odds that Cruz can do this? Do you think he can do it before the convention?
I think if he teams up with Kasich, I think he can do it before the convention. I think he can because I think people that are voting for Trump have really not vetted him. Just like everybody fell after Obama, he wasn't vetted. Do you realize that the press, as soon as Trump becomes the nominee, that they're going to jump on all of his mafia connections that he pretends don't exist? I mean, the whole connection with Sater that everybody just ignores. they're going to jump on everything. They're holding back the BBC documentary until he becomes a nominee, and then they're going to trash him. Why are we not vetting him now before he becomes our nominee?
By vetting him, I mean, there's plenty of negative stuff out there about Trump already. You have a conservative group that is thinking of splintering off and going third party, and they're being quite open about their problems with Trump. I mean, we've had people call here and echo the things you've said about Trump's supposed relationship and association with mafia and other things. I mean, it's not.
Well, the thing is that everybody just keeps tiptoeing around it. I don't think it's supposed at all. It's. I mean, there's pictures of him with Sater, who has mafia ties, and he was his senior advisor, and yet Trump still pretends like, oh, I barely know him. I wouldn't even recognize him. How do we let him get away with saying stuff like that?
Well, how did Obama get away with it? How did Clinton get away with saying stuff like that? I mean,
well, and that's the whole point. I mean, we sit back and say, why did we not vet Obama? And we had a disaster on our hands. Why are we
No. We did vet Obama. I did. I was blue in the face trying to tell people who the real Barack Obama was, and it didn't matter, did it?
Well, that's true. But how do we, There's the big question. Why do people just fall behind these charismatic people?
Okay, now, Susan, if I may get, I don't mean to be a little frustrated here because I'm not, but I have spent more time, I think, on this program than anywhere else combined, seriously trying to explain to people why Trump has his supporters, who the supporters are, why they support Trump, and what is and what isn't, what aren't the ways to separate Trump's supporters from him. And I'm here to tell you, this is not the first time, all of the negatives that you come up with about Trump are not going to separate Trump's supporters from him. It's only going to secure the support even tighter. It's going to expand his support. In fact, it's my position, my feeling is that one of the ways that we separate people from their supporters is, and I hate to say this, but you have to lower the respect level by mocking them. And that's where I come up with the only difference between Trump and Clinton is that Hillary has bigger hands. I mean, he hates that, and we have to mock him and take the respect factor out of it. Because, I mean, think about it. Drudge got up there and put old pictures of Rubio in the big chair to mock him. And that's, I mean, he's been completely ignoring Trump and all the places you could mock him on that. I mean, the whole fake steak thing. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that?
Drudge is in the tank.
But why? Why is Drudge in the tank?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe, for access, maybe Trump has promised him something. Who knows? But I mean, definitely, all you got to do is read Drudge and see all the attacks that he does on all the other candidates, and he completely ignored the whole fake steak infomercial that Trump did.
The fake steak infomercial. You mean for Trump steaks?
Yeah, his pretend Trump steaks that were really Bush Brothers steaks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe it's worth delving back into this. We mocked Obama here. We mocked Reverend Wright. We have had more success mocking and making fun of the Clintons than I can tell you. And she's still the Democrat frontrunner, and she is going to be the Democrat nominee no matter what. They have decided that this is her turn. The mystery of why people support candidates. If there's somebody that could ever figure this out, if there were this magic way to create support for a candidate, whoever came up with that would be determining who is president every year and would be a multimillionaire. Would be the only consultant anybody would want to hire. But that person doesn't exist because that methodology hasn't yet been discovered. The definitive explanation for why candidates are supported by people. I ask myself every year, and even in this primary process, I asked myself, why were people supporting Ben Carson? They knew he had no prayer, but they still stood with him. Why were they supporting Kasich? They knew he had no prayer. I look at all these conservative voters. Why didn't they realize months ago the only hope and prayer they had was Ted Cruz? Why did they hold out for so long and not unify? Why did they know going in? Every conservative worth his salt knows going in that the trick is to divide the conservative vote against the moderate that's in the primaries. You divide the conservative vote, you divide the conservative money. This was Jeb Bush's strategy. Soak up all the money, have all kinds of conservatives running against him, split the vote, split the money, win the war of attrition. Even if you don't win a majority of votes, all the other conservatives combined, if you add them up, are the majority, but they don't get it because they're divided. Why did so many people on the conservative side not decide long ago to unify around one person, everybody else get out, support that guy? If somebody can answer this question for me, I mean, I've got my own theories. But somewhere in here, you're going to have to admit the concept of self-interest. Why is John Kasich running around acting like he can actually win this thing? Why is John Kasich still in this thing when it's the Cruz people desperately wanting a one-on-one with Trump to put into play the theory that there are more anti-Trump votes than pro-Trump votes remaining in these primaries? The theory being that all we need just one conservative against Trump, and we'll find out that conservative is going to win every primary. Isn't that the theory? You can ask these questions till the cows come home. You can find people to get mad at. You can get upset. You can think people don't see it the way you do, and maybe they're not as patriotic or as focused as you think they should be, but you can't take self-interest out of this. You can't take ego out of it. You can't take out of the fact that all these people want the prize, think they are the best qualified to do it. Who knows? So at some point you deal with what you get. You remember Rumsfeld, the problem he got? He said, you go to war with the army that you have. Remember the hell he caught for saying that? I, as the mayor of Realville, completely understood it. Everybody else was out there having cows. Anyway, Susan, I appreciate your time. I'm glad you spent so much time on the phone with me here with your thoughts. We have to take a time out again, do that, and continue after this. It's Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh would have my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Here's Levi in Jackson, New Jersey. Great to have you, sir. Hello.
Thank you, Rush, for taking my call.
You bet.
2 quick points. I'm not sure how come this has not been discussed, but it almost seems to me that John Kasich is in this race with Trump to prevent Cruz from taking it to a one-on-one against Trump. And he was offered something because once it's a one-on-one against Cruz against Trump, he's going to have to debate him, and he's going to be able to lay out his policy, how he's different, and he'll be able to win. So Kasich, it almost seems like, is a spoiler for Cruz, and Trump wants him in that race, and who knows? Maybe Trump wanted him to win Ohio. That way he could keep him in, because without winning Ohio, there would have been no justification for him to stay in.
That wouldn't have mattered. He would have stayed in. I'm convinced he would have stayed in. For my own reasons. What's the other point you wanted to make?
Oh, the other point I wanted to make is, it's actually 2 more points. It's just amazing how I don't understand how these conservatives are teaming up with the establishment, to take down Trump. I'm a Cruz supporter, but they're all teaming up, with the establishment when these establishment people have been suppressing the conservative movement for years. It's just amazing how they would be, teaming up with their own worst enemy. It's just mind-boggling. And what I simply don't understand is how come Cruz is not, why can't there has to be some way for Cruz to get out his message without all these meetings and with Paul Ryan and how to stop Trump. That's not gonna it's not gonna happen.
Okay, what's the other thing? I'll get to those when you're running out of time here. And the real reason I took your call is your last
the article
point
about John Fedoretz that he basically said in a nutshell that Trump is the Avenger. It has nothing to do with that. people feel unshackled, Trump gives them a voice, and not only is he their voice, but he enables them to actually voice what they've been, their frustrations for years. When he unshackled them, they're finally able to say all those things that they wanted to always been say but couldn't because they're racist or then they're bigots or whatnot, and they're finally able to express themselves. He's giving them, he's taking away their shackles. That is, it has nothing to do with, Trump.
Well, let me react to this. I've only got 30 seconds here, and I want to react. He mentioned John Podhoretz. I shared with you a piece from Podhoretz yesterday. Podhoretz is one of the latest to weigh in on what the hell is going on here. Who are these Trump supporters? Why are they supporting Trump? Because it doesn't compute with establishment guys. And he came up with a theory. And his theory is that it's not about making America great again. It's not about trade deals. You Trump supporters, it isn't about making America great because you know Trump can't do that, he says. Trump isn't going to make it. He can't change anything. All Trump is to you is a punisher. You are supporting Trump because Trump's going to go out and get even with these people that have made life miserable for you. He's going to get even with the banks. He's going to punish China. He's going to punish Muslims. He's going to punish Mexicans. He's going to get even with the people who've been screwing you. That's his theory bottled down to its essence. Got to take a break, but we'll continue on this path when we get back. I said I would elaborate on the Podhoretz theory yesterday. We'll do that when we get back from the break here and continue on with Open Line Friday. Don't go anywhere. Meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. It's your guiding light, Rush Limbaugh, behind the golden EIB microphone. There are only two of those. On Friday, let's hit it.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Open Line Friday, which means that you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be something I care about. That's the deal. I will either fake caring so that people don't think I'm bored, or I will act bored. But probably not, because I'm a polite host, the politest host in the country. So you have questions, comments, arguments, problems. Are you at your wit's end? This is the place to come. You don't need these professional counselors out there dealing with this campaign. You can call right here, 800-282-2882, if you want to be on the program. Going back to this John Podhoretz commentary and his attempt, this was actually from yesterday, but his was a piece in Commentary Magazine, and it's a very lengthy piece, and I'm just synthesizing it down to its bare essence as he attempts to explain the Trump phenomenon. I mean, many people that are not for Trump are puzzled beyond their ability to express it, why people support Trump. Some people are getting mad. Some people are taking the rejection of themselves and their ideas personally. Some people, it just doesn't make any sense no matter how they look at it. So they're doing everything they can to try to explain it to themselves in a way that makes sense. And when we talk about some of the analysis, I'm not accusing Podhoretz of this, but some of the people that are on the establishment side engaging in this exercise start out from a position of some contempt toward the average Trump voter for being so blind, for being so stupid. Why don't they see these flaws in Trump? Why don't they see that he's donated to Democrats? Why don't they see that his hair is a mess? Why don't they see that the guy is a bully? Why don't they see? And of course, they all do. They see everything everybody else sees. So the real question is, why does it not matter to them? Or what does it mean to them? And I think at the root of this, the more this goes on, at the root of this is a much deeper disconnect than even I suspected between the professional political class in Washington and the people of the country. And I'll define the terms. Professional political class includes elected officials, includes anybody that deals with them in Washington, such as lobbyists, certain think tanks, certain media. They are all part of the mix. And I really believe that the lack of understanding of what daily life is like for millions of Americans has eluded them while they think they get it, while they think they understand your plight, while they think they understand your anger and your frustrations. I don't think they do. I don't think they quite yet understand it. And you can look at the mockery of the Tea Party by many of these people as an example. That's just one example. I could cite countless others. But I really think that this divide, this disconnect, is huge, and it's made bigger by the lack of awareness on the part of the powerful, if you will. They think they get it. They think they understand it. And they're close in some cases, but they really don't. You can boil it down to not too many different things. I mean, a lot of it has to do with money. It's always about money. It's always been about the trust and faith in American capitalism, in America itself. The old play by the rules, hard work, industriousness, preparedness, trying to live as law-abiding life as you possibly can. There's supposed to be a payoff for that. There are supposed to be rewards. The system is supposed to contain them. Among them, you're supposed to be able to get a better job. As you do a great job someplace else, you're to get noticed. Your opportunities are to expand. And if you have the desire to explore them and to exploit them, you're able to. The primary mechanism of climbing the ladder in the middle class is the college education. And that has become so expensive that it's first an albatross before it even becomes something helpful. And I just think that there are millions of people who haven't had significant increases in their income. And yet these are the people who are told that all these problems in America are their fault. We have a nation which, for the past 7 years specifically, but even longer than that, as you know, has been focused on adjudicating the discrimination against all of these minorities that has gone on since the days of our founding. And it's a specific group of people, middle-class Americans, who are being told they were the culprits. They were the discriminators. They were the bigots. They were the racists. And therefore, things, in their view, are being taken from them. Government is being used to pick winners. And it isn't based on anything other than things people have no control over. Their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, their race. And so they've abandoned the entire belief in the level playing field fairness aspect of things, and do feel the deck is stacked against them. And they think a specific group of people has been in charge of and responsible for stacking that deck. Now, you can argue whether they're right or wrong, but the fact is they are acting on that belief. And it's not just things that have happened in the last 2 or 3, 5, even 7 years. It's been going on for much, much longer than that. These are not liberal people who begrudge the wealthy either. It's not made up of liberals that are ticked off. This is not the kind of anger that you see at Occupy Wall Street or in Al Sharpton rally or any of that. These are people who have believed in capitalism. These are people who have believed in the promises that have been made. These are the people who have voted for it, voted for people who said they understood and would go to Washington and facilitate making this process through life in America with fewer and fewer obstacles for people, and it hasn't happened. So Mr. Podhoretz, let me just read his second to last paragraph, known as the penultimate paragraph. And this is why I think the meaning of Trump is being misused and misunderstood. Trump says he wants to make America great again, but I don't think that's what his acolytes hear. I think Trump's supporters hear that he's going to turn his vicious temper and his unbalanced rage on these large-scale forces that are hindering them. Trump's supporters want somebody punished. Could be China, could be Muslims, could be Mexicans, could be bankers, could be the GOP establishment, whatever. Trump is their punisher. Only he won't be. The qualities that have given Trump appeal to part of the GOP primary electorate would be destructive with a national electorate 7 times the size. If Trump is the GOP nominee, the gender gap, 12% for Romney in 2012, will open into a gender canyon, Grand Canyon for Trump. Now listen to this. I think his acolytes here, Trump supporters, that he's going to turn his vicious temper and unbalanced rage on the large-scale forces they feel are hindering them. They want someone punished. Speaking for myself, I have supported that theory in describing Democrats. I have always sought to explain to people, why do lower class, middle class people, why do they want the rich to get a tax increase? How the hell does it help them? At the end of the day, a rich guy pays more taxes. How does your life change? And the answer's been, it hasn't. They just want the rich guy punished. This has always been an argument made about angry liberal voters. And I believe it was true. I believe that angry liberal voters are constantly running around enraged and angry and feeling left out and ignored. And the reason they vote for the Democrat Party is the Democrat Party is going to get even with people. It's certainly one of the motivations for all of the minority support the Democrat Party gets. How has life improved for any constituency group in the Democrat Party? It hasn't. That's why voters that vote Democrat are constantly enraged, angry all the time, miserable, unhappy, and even when their party is winning things, they're not happy. All the people who thought Obama's presidency was going to result in additional economic benefit to them, there's zero. There's rampant unemployment. There's rampant part-time work. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. The difference is when it happens, they find a way to blame Bush or the Republicans because that's what Obama does. But my point is, the way Mr. Podhoretz here is describing Trump supporters is the way most of us have always looked at traditional angry Democrats. So you Trump supporters are the only ones who can answer this. Do you really know Trump's not going to change anything? Do you really know he can't? Do you really know he can't make America great again? And do you really not care that he can't? You just want Trump to get even with somebody for you because you can't. How does that manifest itself? I have an entirely different theory. Well, not entirely, but I have a different theory about this, as I have expressed over and over and over again. I think the grievances that people have, particularly on the Republican side, are real. They are numerous. And they are rooted in false promises, failed promises, phony agendas, being misled time and time again. And I think there's a sizable group of Americans who do believe that they are being blamed and therefore made to pay for. Look at the illegal immigrant argument, for example. There's no justification for this under the sun. We have people breaking the law coming into this country by the millions, and now unaccompanied children as well. There's nothing good that can come of this for them. And yet they're told that if they oppose it, what are they? They're racists and they're bigots, and they're not. They're also told that they'd better get behind this because the party that they choose, the party they support, the Republican Party, doesn't have a future unless they get behind this particular policy. Illegal immigration, amnesty, whatever you want to call it. But it doesn't make sense to them. It doesn't make any common sense whatsoever. How in the world is bringing in 7 million poor people, 12 million poor people who cannot speak English and are not pushed to learn and are not pushed to acculturate and become, how in the world does that benefit? And then you turn back and you see that they end up being blamed for opposing this. And what are they called? They're called racists, they're called bigots, they're called all kinds of names. And they end up being blamed for this. But the real key is how they see it. They see the government that they elected picking somebody other than them to benefit from government. They pay their taxes, these people don't. They play by the rules, these illegal immigrants. This is one example. There are countless other examples besides illegal immigration, but it's one that's easy to understand. So the government says, we have been racist in our past. The Democrats say this. We have been we've been unfair. We have been mean to various minority groups. And it's time that we paid them back. It's time that we paid for our discrimination. And how are we doing it? We're paying for the discrimination by penalizing the American middle class. The American middle class is being told, look, the country has engaged in behavior in the past that was not our best. It did not represent our values. How many times do they have to hear that from Obama? And he's talking about them, and they know it. And their own party, the Republican Party, doesn't seem to see what's going on. The people they vote for join in this chorus of criticism and blame. It's almost like Washington has decided that America has committed great evils in its past, and it's time to pay for that. It's time to correct that. And who's going to pay for it? The middle class. We're going to take what normally would be a standard, ordinary, everyday benefit of being an American, and we're going to take it away from you. We're going to transfer it to these illegals because we have to show the world what our values are. We have to show the world that we're open, that we're accepting, that we're not racist and all that. It's looked at as, at its bare essence, unfairness. And while this happens, the economy continues to head south. Opportunity continues to evaporate. Everything they thought would happen is happening. And there's no acknowledgement of it or no recognition for it. All there is continued assertions by the elected political class that we need even more of this. Anyway, a brief. Now, my bottom line, I don't think people supporting Trump, I think they actually want this stuff stopped, folks. I don't think it's just about going out punishing people. But anyway, take a break. We'll get back to your phone calls when we get back. Look, there's one other fundamental aspect of this that I should mention, and it isn't self-interest. It isn't rooted in self-interest. I'm talking about the people I've just described. In addition to seeing their own economic future wiped out by any number of Obama policies, by expanding federal debt, by Obamacare, by this, I mean, there's no question, folks, that these people, we all do. There's something else happening. That the people in Washington, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, consultant, K Street lobbyist, this doesn't even register with them. The people I'm talking about and the people at John Podhoretz tried to analyze here, they see America as founded, under assault, and changing, transforming right before their very eyes, to the point where the Constitution has become an impediment to people who are supposed to be defending it. They are scared to death that the greatest country in the history of humanity is about to fall, slowly but surely, and it's going to reach a point where capturing it, recapturing it, and reconstituting it's going to be a major, major undertaking. And that is not self-interest. That's not selfish. It's not about personal income or any of that. And that's just as real. And the people in Washington will laugh at you if you tell them that. Open Line Friday, El Rushbo having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. A friend of mine has a saying, it's time they held their nose for a change. How many years have you had to hold your nose? They've hold you, look, you've got to accept our nominee. You have to accept our position on the budget. You have to accept this. We'll deal with this later when we win the House. And we'll deal with this later when we win the Senate. You must hold your nose and accept the nominee. You must hold your nose and support this candidate. And I'm telling you, it's not just Trump people, Cruz people the same way. They want their country back. Now, even that phrase, and the left will take that phrase and try to run with it and say that you're promoting riots or what have you. But there clearly is a battle going on for the heart and soul of this country. What kind of country it's going to be? The Democrat Party has gone all in radical left, has gone all in on the idea that America was founded immorally, unjustly, unfairly, that it was a rigged game from the beginning for a select few. And the select few have had descendants, and the descendants over the course of the history of the country has made sure the game has remained rigged for them. And they are out there doing Podhoretz, I think, perfectly described your average radical Occupy Wall Street protester, your average radical leftist Obama voter, your average radical leftist feminist. Black Lives Matter, that's exactly who he described. But he thought he was describing Trump supporters. This, I think, is also emblematic and representative of this great disconnect. But I'm telling you, the one thing that illustrates it more than is you tell, like I said, these people in Washington that the country's in crisis, we've got $19 trillion in debt, the Democrat Party is trying to transform, they'll laugh at you. Crisis, come on, you're over-dramatized. We don't have a crisis, and they really don't. They're doing fine, folks. They do fine no matter who wins the White House. Don't you see? Economically, professionally, they do fine no matter who wins. They might do marginally better when their party wins, but they're doing fine. Have you checked the unemployment rate in D.C.? Have you seen what have become the 5 wealthiest counties in the country? 3 or 4 of them surround Washington, D.C., and there's nothing to recommend living there in the wintertime, I'll guarantee you. So why is it happening? 3% unemployment, per capita income dwarfs whatever it is nationally. You tell those people there's a crisis in the country, they don't see it. They think if you think there is, that you're a little kooky. Fruitcake, nutcase, what have you. Here's Tony in Leesburg, Florida, as we head back to the phones on Open Line Friday. Hi, great to have you here.
Hi, Rush. What a pleasure. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet, sir.
So I'm calling as somebody who voted for Ted Cruz in the primary, but I'm calling to say to Ted Cruz or to Cruz supporters or the whole anti-Trump movement to stop bashing Trump, that it's not helping their case. And I think I can explain why people are gravitating toward Trump so much.
Well, have at it. I didn't think there was anything left to be said about that, but if you've got something new, have at it.
Well, I just think it's as simple as saying that Trump, more than anybody, is saying what people think and what they care about more and louder than anybody else. And if Trump or if Ted Cruz or anybody else wants to win, they need to stop worrying about Trump and they need to start worrying about the issues that are important to people and start being as clear and as loud as Trump is about things.
Okay, well, let's look at some of the opposition to Trump and try to figure this out. As you know, there was a group yesterday of conservative leaders, and the purpose of which was to maybe see if there's anybody they could support as a third party, because they just, no matter what, they will not vote for Trump. It would be a betrayal of everything they've ever believed in. It would be a betrayal of conservative principles. It would be a betrayal of their belief in the country. It would be a betrayal of everything they've devoted their lives to. They can't and won't vote for Trump no matter what. And they're going to try to find somebody third party. Now, we all know what happens if there's a third party candidate on the right. We know what happens.
Right.
The Democrat candidate wins. Yet they are doing it because to them it's a matter of honor and it's a matter of principle. Then you have the two stories here that are somewhat conflicting, but you've got Paul Ryan says, no, we'll get behind Trump if it comes to that 100%. And then the very next story is about how they're going to try to take it away from Trump at a contested convention. So what do you think is really going on here? Is honor and principle triumphing over everything? That's what we are being told is happening. That the opposition to Trump is principled and it's based in honor, and that must trump everything. No pun intended.
Well, people don't trust that Trump is actually going to do the things he says. I think that's why you have this resistance against him. As a Cruz supporter, I've watched a lot of stuff on Trump, and I don't feel great about it. You know, I would hope that he does the things that he says he would, but I think it's worlds apart how much better he would be than Hillary Clinton.
You think Trump would be better than Hillary, is what you said?
By worlds apart, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. All right, but you're a Cruz supporter, but you think if Cruz wants to win, people need to stop bashing Trump and talk about issues that reach people and affect people. That's basically your point.
Yeah, if they want to actually get people to get on board with Cruz, then he needs to be as loud as Trump is, so that they know what he stands for, and not just as an anti-Trump candidate, but as somebody who stands for something substantial. Right. You know, talk about the IRS, for instance, and how he wants to get rid of that.
Wait a minute. No. Oh, hold it a minute. Cruz says that in every speech. In every speech, Cruz says he's going to repeal every word of Obamacare on day one. At noon on day one, he's going to abolish the IRS. Every speech during post-election night, campaign appearances, he makes it clear issue after issue after issue what he's going to do. And yet you just said he needs to say those things. So he's saying them. He's made it abundantly clear. I mean, people that are paying attention know exactly what Ted Cruz stands for. They know exactly what he's going to do. He's not hiding it in any way, shape, manner, or form. He's not hiding his conservatism. He's not hiding his devotion to God. He's not hiding his morality. He's shouting it from the rooftops. He's making it abundantly clear to anybody who's listening who he is, what he believes in, what he stands for, what he wants to do, how he sees the country. We're where we are. I mean, it's not that. If I had to say anything, Cruz has been throughout this campaign. The drive-by media and the Republican establishment have been treating Ted Cruz like he's not even there. Been focusing on Jeb. Now we focus on, obviously, Trump. But, I mean, after that, then we focus on Kasich now. Kasich, guys, won one state. It's amazing, isn't it? After Tuesday night, after Super Duper Tuesday, whatever, the guy who won one state and shot a confetti gun at his head is getting all the coverage this week outside of Trump. The guy's won one state, 100-plus delegates. All the attention's focused on him and what he means. And that's very so. Look at this debate. Fox News wanted to have a debate. I guess it was next week. And Trump said, nope, I've had it with debates. They can't ask us anything. They haven't already asked us. We don't have any answers. We haven't already given them. It's a waste of time. I'm not doing any more debates. Now, if Kasich was really in this to win it, you know what he would have done? Shown up for the debate. It'd have been him and Cruz. If Kasich is really about winning this thing, do the debate. He's never going to get any more focused national attention than he would get debating Cruz. But he bumped out as soon as Trump did. Why? Well, it's patently obvious. It's one of two things. Kasich does not want to be caught saying anything negative about Trump because he wants to be part of what Trump is going to end up doing if Trump's the nominee. Or it's even worse. He actually might think he's got a chance to win a contested convention. And my guess would be it's a toss-up between those two. But don't discount the fact that the confetti guy thinks that he can go in there at a contested convention and win this thing. And, folks, before you just throw that away as insanity, go take a look at what establishment Republicans, some leading consultants, and others are saying, and you will be mind-boggled. They're talking about this guy, governor of Ohio, could deliver Ohio in a presidential race. They're treating this guy who's won one state with more importance, more reverence, more respect than Ted Cruz has gotten throughout this entire campaign. I mean, going back to last August, through the fall and through the winter, whenever anything is going on in the Republican presidential campaign, it's almost like Cruz is not there. Totally understandable, too. Of all of these candidates running, the one guy they really don't want is Ted Cruz. I'm talking about establishment Republicans and others. They don't want any part of Ted Cruz because they fear him. They fear that would mean a total reworking of the Republican Party. So they run around comparing him to Goldwater. They run around comparing some Jesus freak or whatever the criticisms there are. They believe they could work with Trump because they think Trump's malleable. They've even had establishment types who have said so. But when it comes to Cruz, Cruz's task has been to get noticed. Cruz's task has been to shout louder, whatever he has to do to overcome that, because he knows as well that you can't go out and cry unfair. Look at Kasich did that. During the early debates when nobody would call on him, hey, I'm the guy here, and Carson too, and people laughed at it and thought it was childish. Same thing would happen to Cruz if he went and complained about it, and he knows about it. So he's got to come up. This is basically what our first caller here was saying. Anyway, I got to take a break here, folks. Once again, a little bit long. Next segment, just marginally shorter, and I'm just telling you that so you understand. Back after this. Here's another question I have. So you have this group of conservatives that had the big powwow yesterday about finding a third-party candidate because they're a sense of honor and duty and loyalty to conservatism, and Trump is not conservative, and we never vote for Trump, never know what we do, never, ever going to vote for Trump. So they want to vote for somebody, so they're looking for maybe third-party candidates, somebody they think could, okay. Then you got Paul Ryan, the rest of the Republican establishment, trying to keep Trump from getting it. Can I ask a simple question? Why is the third-party group not joining Cruz? Well, it's something I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not fully up to speed on what they're doing, and maybe they have. Maybe Cruz is in there. I don't know. But when I hear third party, what I hear is they don't like current options. You've got Cruz is running second behind Trump. The current thinking is that neither can get to 1237, but if one can, it's Trump. So we've got to stop that. You've got the Republican establishment gang talking about a contested convention so that they don't have to do Trump. If it's not Cruz, who the hell are you going to do? You're going to throw one of your establishment buddies in there? Or are you going to try to engineer so Kasich can be the nominee? I mean, clearly that's what he's angling for. I don't think there's much doubt about that. Why not Cruz? Well, I know I've already answered it. I'm trying to, by asking the question, I'm making its own point here. So essentially, the establishment is saying that neither of the top two vote getters via the Democratic process in the Republican primary are suitable. Do I have that right? Neither of them are suitable. And the third-party group seems to be saying the same thing, unless I'm missing something. Why would you go for a third-party guy instead of getting behind the Cruz effort? Am I missing some? Seriously, I haven't studied them. You look at that Washington Post piece. The Washington Post piece that we talked about yesterday is this sheer panic Washington Post piece, which said to defend our democracy, the GOP must aim for a brokered convention. Well, I know they're not thinking of Ted Cruz either. They hate Ted Cruz. But did you notice what followed? As a moral question, it is straightforward. The mission of any responsible Republican should be to block a Trump nomination and election. Wait just a second. Do you understand what they're saying here? Washington Post. Let's reverse the order. As a moral question, it is straightforward, they wrote. The mission of any responsible Republican should be to block a Trump nomination and election. The headline of that editorial, to defend our democracy, the GOP must aim for a brokered convention. Excuse me, folks, but it's democracy that has gotten us Trump number one, Cruz number two. So the Washington Post is actually saying that in order for the GOP to ensure a democratic America, it must block the democratic results of the Republican primary. I'm telling you, these people are being driven insane by this campaign. We'll be back in a second. Did I read that right? That some babe at News Busted, whatever that is, says that Ben Carson has just been named the dean of the Trump University Medical School? I just read that. We'll be back. Don't go. It is the fastest 3 hours in media. Rush Limbaugh saying more in 5 minutes than most hosts will say in an entire broadcast week. Here we are on Friday, heading on down the tracks.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Okay, folks, 1 hour remains on Open Line Friday. Your golden opportunity to have at it, whatever it is you want to talk about, whatever you want to say, whatever question you want to ask. If you're on hold now, stay there. I promise we're getting to you sooner than later. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. I have here a story from the New York Times. And I don't know if this is a straight-out news story or if it's a review of something. Maybe it's a movie review. It is by somebody named Genslinger, Neil Genslinger. Review: The Brainwashing of My Dad examines the influence of right-wing news media. Now, wait till you hear this. It isn't very long. Apparently, somebody named Jan Senko, S-E-N-K-O, has produced a documentary about how her dad was brainwashed by me and Fox News. And her documentary has been reviewed by this Genslinger guy. It starts out this way. A lot of people, especially on the liberal side of the spectrum, will certainly identify with The Brainwashing of My Dad, Jen Senko's documentary about how right-wing news programs, talk shows, and internet sites turned her once reasonable father into a raging embodiment of intolerance and suspicion. First, can I ask any of you, how many of you would produce a documentary slamming your own father? How many of you would attempt to get noticed and maybe earn some money by producing a documentary designed to humiliate and embarrass your own father? Well, that's what we have here. Apparently, Jen Senko felt she had no other choice. She had no other way of explaining what had happened to her father. Now, the reviewer Neil Genslinger says here that the film feels as though it's arriving late to its discoveries. And given the current political climate, as if it's really only even scratching the surface. So the reviewer says, okay, fine, but where were you 20 years ago? Where were you 20 years ago, Jen Senko? And besides, you're not even getting down to the depth that you really need to get to here. Ms. Senko says that her father, Frank, was a non-political Kennedy Democrat until the 1980s. There's no such thing. Well, let me not take issue with it yet here. Let me just... Ms. Senko says that her father, Frank, was a non-political Kennedy Democrat till the 1980s when he began listening to a lot of right-wing gum flappers. Mr. Genslinger here says that Jen Senko spends too much of the film detailing what anybody who watched Jon Stewart even once already knows. So, right here, the reviewer says, we don't need your documentary, Senko. All you need to do is watch Jon Stewart one time to understand what your documentary says. So in Genslinger's point of view, Jon Stewart's not political. Jon Stewart is not ideological. Jon Stewart isn't, and Jon Stewart is the embodiment of fairness and objectivity, and he gets it right about everybody. And all you have to do to know everything you want to know is watch Jon Stewart one time. Now, in liberal circles, I imagine that's quite a put down. I imagine Miss Senko thinks that she has a work of art here. And her work of art has been reduced to something totally unnecessary, if anybody's ever watched Jon Stewart one time. But let me continue reading. Ms. Senko says that her late father, Frank, non-political Kennedy Democrat till the 1980s, when he began listening to a lot of right-wing gum flappers, she spends too much of the film detailing what anybody who watched Jon Stewart even once on The Daily Show already knows, that Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, and the like fabricate and distort routinely. Oh, yeah, Jon Stewart never did that. Jon Stewart never fabricated. Jon Stewart never distorted anything. Jon Stewart never made anything up, did he? No way. Why, Jon Stewart was biblical. Jon Stewart was the left-wing Bible, and all anybody had to do to understand these right-wing crazies was to watch one episode of his show. And what did Jon Stewart properly point out about these right-wing gum flappers? Well, The right's most incendiary figures are entertainers, not journalists or academic experts. The film has an interesting segment on the neurology of the phenomenon, how alarm is addictive, how repetition of the same messages transforms the brain, but the subject is left underexplored. So you see, according to this reviewer, this woman's documentary doesn't get anywhere near there. She does explore how shows like this are addictive because we do nothing but alarm you all the time. This is so cockeyed. Who is it that has the whole crisis politics manner battened down? Who is it that owns that genre? Every day we are faced with multiple crises presented to us by the drive-by media. Either our latest favorite phone is going to give us cancer. Our latest, greatest food is going to cause us to gain weight and die of a heart attack. Our latest, greatest beverage is going to give us diabetes. Our automobiles are going to wipe us out. Fracking is going to destroy the planet. Miami Beach will be underwater in 2 years because we have done nothing about global warming. Every day, multiple crises, and yet we are being held responsible and accountable here for that. In addition to telling her own family story, Ms. Cinco invited video submissions from others who have had similar experiences with loved ones. And those provide the film's most heartfelt moments. So apparently this documentary is not just about Miss Cinco's dad becoming a pod person, but a number of other leftists have sent in similar horror stories included in her documentary about how once tolerant and open-minded and touchy-feely and non-political fathers and parents and other relatives had been co-opted to mean-spirited, extremist, racist, bigot homophobes by right-wing media. But the nastiness that has been brought out into the open by the current presidential campaign demonstrates that hatred and suspicion are more endemic than a collection of personal stories suggests. So this guy takes another swipe at this poor woman's documentary. Yeah, she did a documentary about her dad. Yeah, but it's too late. Jon Stewart told us this 25 years ago. And yeah, well, no, he was 14 years, sorry. Jon Stewart told us this 14 years ago. And where was she 25 years ago? This is old news. In fact, the presidential campaign is a greater testament to the insanity of the right wing than anything Ms. Cinco could do in her documentary. Right-wing outlets may be exploiting humanity's ugly side, but Miss Cinco's frail-looking father, who died in January at age 93, isn't so much the face of the phenomenon as he is a small and not especially representative sample. Boy, this guy cuts her documentary, and he agrees with everything in it. Can you believe? He agrees with everything in her documentary. It was too little. It was too late. I guess there wasn't enough homage paid to Jon Stewart in it. But this is who they are. Folks, this is why, from the first days of this program, the focus here has been to try to inform people that the greatest destructive force in this country today is American liberalism as personified by the Democrat Party. And we all have our grievances and we all have our problems. Let me tell you what irritates me most about the Republican establishment. Everything we've mentioned, but it's this: not recognizing the enemy. Not having the guts to recognize the enemy, the political enemy. Not having the guts to recognize them, not pushing back against them. For all the obvious reasons. There have been times I have felt like I'm in this all by myself. I mean, there are others who do what I do, don't misunderstand. But in terms of the supposed political party that's supposed to be the repository of our set of values and beliefs, there hasn't been any recognition whatsoever in the last 10 years that liberalism is. It used to be the Republicans had no problem using the word. And every time they did, they won elections. Every time they successfully characterized their opponent as a raging lunatic leftist, they won. Well, not every time, but I mean, it was frequent. These people are sick. They are dangerous. They are close-minded. They are not the tolerant, open-minded, loving, harmless people they want us to believe. They're the architects of political correctness. They're the architects of censorship. They are the ones that want to take your constitutional rights away from you. They are the ones that want to make you an economic serf dependent on them for your day-to-day living. They are the ones who hold you in contempt. They're the ones who think you do not have the capability, the competence, the ambition to succeed on your own without them. They're the ones that call you racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe. They're the ones that create race wars in this country. They're the ones that create economic division. They specialize in creating division. The American left, liberalism, the Democrat Party. And I can't get anybody in Washington to ever utter a syllable of that, much less act on it. That, to me, is the enemy. Not Donald Trump, not Ted Cruz, not John Kasich, not Ben Carson, who's just been named the dean of the Trump University Medical School. Well, it's check to see if you can find a news site, a website called News Busted. That's where it is. Some woman at News Busted, not Newsbusters. Newsbusters quotes this babe at News Busted. The story is posted at Newsbusters. But you want to know what animates me, what informs me, what energizes me is beating these people, beating them politically, beating them culturally, which is why, I've probably bored you silly telling everybody how important it is for everybody to be able to recognize liberalism everywhere they see it. It's destroying us. Liberalism is tearing the country apart. And liberalism is found throughout the Democrat Party, so I guess they're inseparable. That's my enemy, folks. That's my focus. That's who I'm opposed. Anybody can beat them. That's the objective, is to beat them. And I realize people are mad at me thinking that I'm letting conservative principles waft by the wayside. Hell's bells on that. No freaking way. But it's also not a suicide pact. You can talk about honor all you want, and I understand it, and I agree with it, and I applaud it. But it is whatever they call it, nutcracking time here. This Supreme Court nomination, this whole thing ought to be waking everybody up to what the future portends if we get this wrong. They have to be beaten. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, whoever. They have to be beaten. And then after they're beaten, they have to be marginalized. And none of that can happen in one election. Not all of it. You know what I told you I think is going to happen after this election. If a conservative Republican wins this election, whoever the next president is going to be harassed and harangued every day by the usual leftist suspects. And as each element of the Obama agenda is attempted, we try to get rid of it. Obama himself is going to be on TV with his buddies in the media trying to defend it. It's not going to be for the faint of heart. That's why what's happening in our campaign right now, this whole Republican primary, this is tiddlywinks compared to what the future is going to be if we succeed in beating these people back. It's tiddlywinks. And people have got to know how serious this is. Okay, it's a parody. News Busted is Newsbusters' parody site. I knew it was. That's why I prefaced it that way. I always treated it as a joke. But it has an element of truth in it. I mean, I can see Trump doing it. I can see me doing something like that as a one of my famous bits, putting people on way back when. Early days of the program. Folks, to me, there's one objective here. And it supersedes all the intramural skirmishes that are taking place here, which is why I said when I was up there on Fox News Sunday 2 Sundays ago with Chris Wallace, and he said, what do you think is going to happen? I told him what I thought, what I hope is going to happen, that when all this is all over, we end up with a nominee everybody rallies behind, unifies behind. I love the idea. I have to tell you, I love the idea of the Republican Party growing. I love the idea of stealing Democrats from the Democrat Party because there's a bunch of them that are fed up. White, working class, blue-collar people are fed up with the Democrat Party. I'm more than happy to welcome them in. Not as liberals, but as us. And I fully understand some of you think, well, that may be a good thing, Rush, but what about Republicans that might leave the party for the same reasons those blue-collar Democrats are joining the party? I understand. I know what's going on. I just don't want you to be in any suspense or have any doubt about what my objective here is. It has never changed. And in fact, I am more, to me, it's a greater sense of urgency in this election than it has ever been. I have to take a break. We'll get back to your phone calls right after this timeout. I didn't doubt it was real. Snerdley just found the sound of Nautica, the ant, the Trayvon Williams story. Apparently some people have doubted that was real. I know I was one of the early doubters. We found audio soundbite to document it. Look, folks, I meant it. What's happening now in the Republican primary process is tiddlywinks compared to what is going to happen if the Republicans win the White House. You worried about riots right now? You haven't seen riots until somebody tries to unwind Obamacare. You haven't seen riots until the next Republican president takes dead aim at numerous Obama policies. Illegal immigration amnesty, takes dead aim at all of Obama's executive orders. You haven't seen riots. And they're already promising that it's going to happen. The Occupy Wall Street crowd, they're already promising these things. They're bragging about the biggest riots anybody's ever seen this summer to protest Trump. They're going to protest us no matter what, whoever on our side wins. And what worries me is that we do not have a Republican Party apparatus that is equipped and prepared for this. It's a genuine concern of mine. I don't like using the word cave, but it's patently obvious they're not much into conflict. It's pretty clear that they are willing to compromise what they believe so that the media doesn't call them names. Well, we don't even know what name calling is yet. People are involved in this right now like it's an academic exercise. Conservatism has to triumph here. We need to be true to our principles there, and all of that's right on the money. But that's all well and good, but it better also maintain and grow after the election is won. There are a whole lot of different competing objectives going on out there. You have a lot of people trying to show they can still have influence and power. A lot of people still trying to show they can affect outcomes of events. You have a lot of people trying to claim they're the real conservatives, standing up for conservatism, doing fine and dandy. But if it's not focused and targeted on beating back the American left, what good is it? That's my point. That's right, folks. Turn it up to at least 800 decibels. Make sure you miss nothing. Here's Tom in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Back at you, sir. Greetings and welcome to the program. Hi.
Well, thank you, sir. It is an honor and a privilege to speak with you today. I hope I make you look good. I believe that the Trump campaign is being run like a reality show, sir. And the reason I believe that is partly you, when you tell me there's no consultants over there, they don't have the same setup as maybe any campaign that's run. Secondly, he makes caricatures out of all of the candidates, such as Lion Ted, Little Marco, Low Energy Jeb. You name it, he's got a name for everybody. And what happens is now we're just trying to vote him off the island. And the only unfortunate part about this, sir, is that these people have no idea what the consequences are going to be, because normally they get on the phone and they make a call to vote for American Idol, and you get more votes on American Idol than you do in a presidential election. And I think that's where all these people are coming from, is they think they're on this reality show and it's going to be their 15 minutes of fame without knowing the consequences.
You're talking about Trump supporters.
Yes.
So you're not one. You are not, because you're not falling for this ruse.
No, sir, I'm not. I think what really made, well, I was watching his campaign. I actually watched him do a stump speech over at, he gets off his plane in Cadillac, Michigan, and all he did was sit there and tell everyone how great his polls are and sit there and run down other candidates. He never talked policy. He is a diatribe for over an hour. And these people are sitting here listening to it. I'm wondering, where are these people coming from? This isn't a campaign stump speech. This is it's a reality show.
Well, I like your analogy. The only thing missing is the plane, and Hervé Villechai. And, of course, Mr. York, welcoming everybody. Remember, all the people that showed up at Fantasy Island got the shaft before it was all over. I like the analogy, especially that Trump lands, gets off the plane, starts talking about how great his polls are, starts talking about Lion Ted, Low Energy Jeb, Little Marco, gets back on the plane, flies away, and his audience thinks they've been on TV. They've been on American Idol, they've been on Survivor, right? Survivor, Celebrity Apprentice, because Trump never talks policy. Yeah, I know. Trump never talks policy. Well, that's actually not true. You see, he does talk policy, just not the way they do in professional politics. But he talks about policy all the time. At least I know that his supporters hear policy. Make America Great, again, is not hope and change to them. It's not open and vacuous and define it as you want. Make America Great again is very specific. I'm going to build a wall with a beautiful door. That's pretty specific. We're going to let them in. We're going to let them in. We're going to let them in. They got to go. They got to go. We're going to let them in legally. Legally. Yay! He does stream of consciousness. As I say, I'm working on my Trump impersonation. It really isn't hard to do. The hardest thing about a Trump impersonation is just actually saying whatever what comes into your mind, whatever it is, and whenever you say it. You don't have any governor on you. You're talking about your polls, and something reminds you of Low Energy Jeb, and you go off on Low Energy Jeb. We're talking about Low Energy Jeb. It reminds how you were killing little Jeb in the polls, and you go into Little Marco, how you're beating everybody in the polls, and you just never stop. You do that for an hour and a half. There's no dam on the stream of consciousness. There's no there's no Depends diaper for the incontinency of the emotions. It just goes and goes and goes. And that's what very few people can do. It comes off as undisciplined and unprepared to the button-down professionals. But that's right. To other people, it comes off as confidence and a willingness to say whatever pops in. Anyway, Ken, I appreciate the call. Next up, we have this is Daly from Houston, Texas. Hi, Daly. Great to have you on the program. So you're 14, is that right?
Yes, sir. Hi, Mr. Limbaugh.
Hi, great to have you on the program, Daly.
It's such an honor to speak to you. First of all, I want to thank you so much for all you do.
Well,
I've actually been listening to you since I was a baby, and I love your show so much. You're doing so much for America, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, you have made my day. I can't. It is I who thank you. I really appreciate that.
My question is, do you think that Cruz still has an honest chance to win? I really like Cruz, and he's inspired me, and I think that he's the kind of leader we haven't seen since Reagan. And I was wondering if you think he has an actual chance to win.
Have you met Senator Cruz?
Yes, sir, I have.
What? You've obviously you've been inspired by him. How long a time did you have to speak with him?
Well, actually, he was at an event in Houston, and he took 4 questions, and I got to ask him a question, and he answered it. And so probably about 15 minutes.
Well, let me answer your question this way, Daly. The question, basically, young Daly here wants to know if I think that Ted Cruz has a chance to win. And in answering that question, let's take a look at where he is. He right now is in second place. And because of something I said earlier, I think the fact that Ted Cruz is in second place is astounding. Ted Cruz has been ignored from the first day of this campaign. Whatever the news of the campaign is, day to day, he is not in it. And particularly from last summer through the fall and winter, he was not. The news was always about Trump, but then it was either about Jeb or Marco or Governor Christie. Even at the debates, Ted Cruz is smoking everybody at the debates, never is reviewed as such, never commented on. After the debate, the post-debate coverage is usually how did Trump do or what did Trump say about this moderator or that moderator. But daily, my point is Ted Cruz is in second place. He has been given no time by the drive-by media. He has been shown no respect. They have not treated him as a viable candidate. He has been hammered over and over by every other candidate. One way or another, Ted Cruz has been lambasted. He is very rarely given a chance to rebut the things that are said about him. He is routinely one of the speakers at each debate that speaks the least. There's some exceptions in some debates, but for the most part, he's among the least. He is hated by the establishment, and they're the ones that totally ignore him. The party has not lifted a finger to help him, and even now when they are starting to, they make it known that they're not happy to be doing it.
You're completely right.
Now, well, hang on, though. He is being dwarfed and swamped by unprecedented coverage of Trump, who hasn't had to spend any money to get it. Ted Cruz has raised money left and right. There are all kinds of people giving money to Ted Cruz, and nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to talk about Ted Cruz. We're told over and over that everybody in the Senate hates him. We're told over and over everybody in Washington hates him, but yet he's in second place, and he's won 9 states. So you're asking me if I think Ted Cruz can win? Yeah, I do. I don't think it's anywhere near over yet. Everybody wants you to believe that it is. Everybody wants you to believe one of two things. It's over. Cruz is not going to get there. Trump is. Or we're going to go to a contested convention, and it's going to be between Kasich and whoever else the establishment can throw up. It still amazes me, Daly. You have the establishment types with their secret dinner meetings, like last night here in Palm Beach, trying to figure out how to game the convention so that one of theirs can get the nomination. Then you have these conservatives who are plotting, trying to come up with a third-party candidate. And here again, nobody's talking about Ted Cruz. And he's there every day. And he's out campaigning. He's going everywhere. And he is in second place despite all of the obstacles that have been put in his way. So I think he can. Now, if it goes contested, the establishment doesn't want him even more than they don't want Trump. But I think it's remarkable what he's been able to accomplish and pull off here, given the way the deck has been purposefully stacked against him. What do you think of that, Daly?
Thank you so much. I completely agree. You've made my day, too. Thank you.
You bet. I'm glad you... Hey, Daly, Have you read my books, the Rush Revere books?
Yes, sir, I have.
You have? Okay. Well, I was going to say.
I love them. They're awesome.
Do you have an iPad by any chance?
No, sir, I don't.
Would your parents mind if I sent you an iPad, do you think?
I don't know.
Sounds like they would. I'll tell you what. You ask.
I'd be so grateful.
Okay, cool. Okay, they say it's fine. Okay, so you want a big one or do you want the little one? You want the iPad Air or you want the iPad Pro?
I think the iPad Air, whatever is great. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Well, Daly, I don't know. Do you have big hands or small hands, Daly?
I have small hands.
Small hands. Okay, small hands. Well, but the Pro could grow into the Pro. The Pro is like 13 inches. The little one's like 10 inches. But the little one,
whatever you think is best, you know it.
I knew I liked you, Daly. Really, so few people ever say that to me. Whatever you think best, Rush. Nobody ever says that to me. You made my day. Okay, Daly, hang on so Mr. Snerdley can get your... We're going to FedEx it. You'll have it tomorrow, okay?
Thank you so much.
You bet. And we will be right back. Don't go away. Here's Janice in Billings, Montana. Janice, you're the last call today. Great to have you with us. Hi.
Hi, Rush. I want to suggest a way to stop the plan for a contested convention.
Okay.
This is the way. Trump and Cruz agree to be running mates. One of them suspends his campaign. The other one wins the remaining delegates. Problem solved.
Well, okay. Who goes number two in your scenario? Who is the V?
I think Trump should be president first because he's the older front runner. So we could have 2 Trump terms and 2 Cruz terms. And they'd be great together. You know, Trump understands messaging, Cruz understands the Constitution, and I want both of them.
Well, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
The nominee is going to be one of the 2 of them.
Yep.
When you can say all you want, but when you boil this down, the nominee is going to be one of those 2 people. I think these people having their dreams and fetishes can do it all they want. It's going to be one of those 2 people.
I know. Well, they're great men. They're both strong men.
That's true. That's true. I don't know. Some Cruz people might abandon him if he did it. I mean, there's some. The anti-Trump vitriol is pretty vitriolic, I should say. But it's an interesting thing to chew on over the weekend. I'm glad that you made it through here, Janice. We've got to go, folks. We'll be back to wrap it up after this. Okay, folks, that's it. I hope you have a great weekend. We will be back on Monday. You can count on it. Hope you have a great weekend. And thank you so much, as always, for being with us today, every day. Look forward to the next time. Cheerio.